So hi, very good morning all of you, and very good morning Bhargavi. So today I think that in the last class, the last topic was the Shishunaga dynasty. So today we'll be starting with the uh, Nanda dynasty, and as I must have mentioned that today's topic would be the very big topic of the Mauryas. So let's begin with the classes, and so I was on leave for 2-3 days, not more than 2-3 days, because there was a marriage ceremony in my family. So you guys know that whenever anybody is returning from marriage, so he's doubtful, she's doubtful that, and that too a marriage ceremony in Delhi. So I am also circumspect that I must have given myself 2-3 more days in quarantine, and then I must have come to the classes. Lekin till this time, I'm feeling okay. So I'm taking the class. Not quite okay, but I'm feeling okay. And hopefully all everything must be fine in next 2-3 days also, because marriage events are super spreading events. This you guys know, and you cannot avoid if it is in your family. So let's begin with the next dynasty, Nanda dynasty. So Nanda dynasty, and I think I must have mentioned that last ruler, Shishunag dynasty last ruler, Kalasok, he was assassinated by a person, Mahapadma Nand. So I must have told you one part of this story also, that Mahapadmanand was, it is said that he was born out of a kind of extramarital affair of the Kalasok. He was also known as Kakvarnin. And there was this lady whose name was Padma. So he was born of that union, and when Kalasok, he refused to accept Mahapadmanand, so then he decided to eliminate, not only eliminate the last ruler Kalashok, and who was his father, so eliminate this person, but also he took a resolve, this person Mahapadmanand, he took a resolve that he will eliminate all the Kshatriyas from the Magad. Then so he took a resolve that he will eliminate all the Kshatriyas from the Magad. Soon after he assassinated Kalasok, he established Nanda dynasty in 344, and then he was on a spree. And what was this spree? Killing the Kshatriyas in the Magad. Then, so killing the Kshatriyas in the Magad, he started killing, and then such was his terror that many people, many Kshatriyas, important Kshatriyas, they fled from that areas. Then, so they fled from that area, and because of his aggressive attitude towards the Kshatriya, he came to be known as Ekarat Ugrasen. Then, so Ekarat or Ugrasen, and it is a synonymous with the aggressive person. So Ekarat or Ugrasen. Now, as far as his kind of annexation is concerned, that in his time, that what all kind of annexations were there. So he was the one who controlled the Utkal coast, that is particularly the Kalinga area. Then, so he controlled the Kalinga area. But see, in history, what happens at one point of time, somebody controls that area, and other time that after 4 or 5 years or some year, the region becomes free. And that was true with the Kalinga also. So he controlled Kalinga, and then after his death, Kalinga again became free. Now, so Mahapadmanand's tenure was not that too very large, that he was not there for a long period. In fact, 344 to 321 BC, this was the time period in which Nanda dynasty was there. And in this time period only, that so many rulers, in fact 9-8 rulers came to picture. But the only persons that we need to mention is the Mahapadmanand, and the last ruler who was in fact the most powerful ruler of the Nanda. His name was the Dhana Nand. So first you mention about the Nanda dynasty. So it was founded by Mahapadmanand, Mahapadmanand in 344 BC. Mahapadmanand in 344 BC. Full stop. After coming to power, he took resolve that he will eliminate. He took resolve, not he will. You write. He took resolve to eliminate all the Kshatriyas from Magad. To eliminate all the Kshatriyas from Magad. Full stop. All the Kshatriyas from Magad. Due to his aggressive attitude, he came to be known as Ekarath or Ugrasen. Ekarath or Ugrasen. Ekarath or Ugrasen. Done? Then you mention he annexed Kalinga. During his tenure. He annexed Kalinga during his tenure. Then further you mention in a quick succession after the death of Mahapadmanand, in a quick succession, many rulers were appointed. In a quick succession, many rulers were appointed. Full stop. The last ruler of Nanda dynasty was Dhananand. Who was also the most powerful Nanda ruler. Now we need to talk about that what happened during the tenure of the Dhananand. So listen, that while Dhananand is the ruler in Magad area, and Magad territory was quite large. So this is the time when this ruler of the Macedonia, please pay attention to this, that ruler of the Macedonia, Alexander, Alexander started his eastern campaign. So there was one battle which was fought in the western part of the Indian subcontinent, and northwest, you can say that northwest or western part of the Indian subcontinent. This battle was fought between the Alexander and then one Indian ruler. The name of the Indian ruler was Porus. Indian ruler Porus, and Porus was fighting Alexander in a so-called Battle of the Hydaspes. So Battle of Hydaspes, which happened in 326 BC. In this Battle of Hydaspes, Hydaspes is synonymous with the Jhelum river. So in this Battle of Hydaspes, Alexander defeated Porus. But at the same point of time, he recognized the bravery of the Porus and his courage of the Porus. So impressed by the bravery and courage of the Porus, Alexander, rather than annexing the area of the Porus, he reinstated Porus to the throne of his own kingdom, and moreover, he made him his ally. He made him his ally. This is the thing of the 326. After this episode, Alexander wanted to extend his territory further into the India, further into the India. So further into the India, and this particular, that after these 5 territories of the Indus, you know that Indus, then Jhelum, Chenab. So these all rivers that moving from that eastern side, western side of the Indus to the western side of the Indus. Now what happened at this point of time when he was preparing to attack on the Magad, fight with the Magad. So what happened that his army men, they said something to the Alexander that from very long time, since we started from the Macedonia, we are fighting war, and this continuous war has caused so much of weariness and teariness in our body. So we are exhausted. We need some time to recuperate. We need some time to rejuvenate. In this instance, if we go and fight with the Dhananand, and you know Dhananand was strongest ruler of the subcontinent, so the outcome may not be in our favor. So Alexander paid heed to the suggestions which were given by his army men, and he decided that he will not, at this point of time, he will not enter or into this hinterland of India or fight with the Magad. So while he wanted to wait for some time, it was not he will not fight with the Magad, but he wanted to wait for some time. So what he did, that he appointed one of his governor over there, and he decided for the time being he will return to his own place, Macedonia, and then one fine day he will return back, and then he will fight with the Dhananand. But it was unfortunate for Alexander that when he was returning, so somebody launched an arrow from the back, not from the front. So this is what cowards do, that they launch arrow from the back. So somebody launched arrows from the poisoned arrows from the back, which hit Alexander. And Alexander, after a prolonged illness, because of this, you know that in earlier times people were not only they were launching the arrows, that arrows were always dipped into the poison. Then so they were dipped into the poison, so that not only, even if a wound is small, but poison will spread into the body. So that's how that was the case, that the arrow did not penetrated deeper into the body of the Alexander, but the poison which is spread into his body, and after 40 days of illness he died. So that's how Alexander died. So death of the Alexander and this army attitude, that not attitude, I'll say, that armies, that exhausted army's suggestion, Dhananand was saved from the attack of the Alexander. Then, so attack of the Alexander, and in future also he was saved from the attack of Alexander because Alexander died. So it seemed like a God's blessing to the Dhananand. Then God's blessing to the Dhananand, but it was not the final. There was something else written in the fate of the Dhananand. When Dhananand is he is saved from the mighty Alexander, on the other hand, he will be defeated by altogether a very lesser known personality, and that lesser known personality at this point of time was Chandragupta Maurya. There is a big story over here. I will be telling you this story, though my pace would be slow today. So I'll be telling you this story, but first you write the Alexander episode over here at the time of the Dhananand. So you write that at this time, ruler of Macedonia, ruler of Macedonia, ruler of Macedonia, Alexander started his eastern campaign. Started his eastern campaign. Then further you mention, in 326 BC, in 326 BC, 26 BC, he fought with the Indian ruler. He fought with the Indian ruler Porus in Battle of Hydaspes. Battle of Hydaspes. I have written the spelling on board, so you can see Hydaspes, and this Hydaspes is synonymous with the Jhelum river. So in the battle of Hydaspes, then further you mention, though Alexander defeated Porus, but but impressed by his bravery, he reinstated, Porus. He reinstated Porus and made him his ally. And made him his ally. Made him his ally. Then, after full stop, you change paragraph and then you write, Alexander planned to attack on Magad. Planned to attack on Magad, but his army was exhausted his army was exhausted because of continuous wars exhausted because of continuous war, and it wanted time to recuperate, full stop. As such Alexander decided not to attack on Magad. As such, Alexander decided not to attack on Magad. Then after you write, not to attack on Magad. Very soon, when Alexander was returning to Macedonia, he was sinisterly attacked. He was attacked treacherously, you can say. He was attacked treacherously. And because of the injury, he died. Full stop. Now, again you will be changing paragraph and again listen. Before writing, please listen. So though what I was saying that Dhananand was saved from the attack of the Alexander, but his fate it was something else was written, and he was going to be defeated by one Indian ruler, you can say, but he was a very lesser known personality at this point of time. His name was Chandragupta Maurya. So why a person like Chandragupta Maurya is able to defeat this particular person? Then that Dhananand, who was the most powerful ruler of this time. And many times that writers have boasted about the army composition of the Dhananand, whereby they have said that in his army more than 1 lakh soldiers were there. near about 10,000 cavalry men, and then also in a good quantum elephants were there. So why this such a big army, somebody having such a big army composition, was defeated by such a lesser known personality? It could not have been possible without the support of a greater statesman craft of the Chanakya. Then, so Chanakya is the one name that you know, and then original name of this person was the Vishnu Gupta. Vishnu Gupta or Kautilya. This is what his original name was, and he was also known as Chanakya. So because of the active support of the Chanakya, Kautilya or Vishnu Gupta, same person, these two other names. So Vishnu Gupta, because of the active support of the Vishnu Gupta or Chanakya, Chandragupta Maurya was able to defeat Dhananand. 10. So Chandragupta Maurya was able to defeat Dhananand. This happened in 321 BC. And then after defeating, he established the Maurya dynasty. Now before anything I will mention for writing purpose, can you guys tell me? I'm inviting answers from you. Please, again I will request that please don't Google it because it kills the fun of the asking question. So tell me that in which particular book that this fight between the Nanda ruler and Chandragupta Maurya is mentioned. So please tell me the name of the book in which the fight, the details of the fight between Nanda ruler and Chandragupta Maurya is mentioned. Okay, so this is my question and you guys can send your queries, not queries, your answers. So now let me tell you that some story related to this. अभी लिखो नहीं, कुछ भी मत लिखना. So there is a very interesting story about this, how that Chandragupta Maurya defeated Nanda ruler. Let me tell you some other aspects also. So there are some differing versions of the story that how he defeated, but these differing versions are just some of the instances, but overall the essence of the story is same, that how he defeated. So these differing versions you will find in Buddhist book and then Jaina books. Then so Buddhist book, so answers are coming. Let's 4-5 answers arrive over here on the prompter. So then I will tell you, I will tell that who has sent what all kind of answer. So in the Buddhist version and then in the Jaina version, little bit of differences are there. So little bit of differences are there, but overall essence of the story is same. So I will be telling you the story. Then I'll be telling you the story. So now I'm reading your answers. Let me read your answers first and then I will tell you the story. Because once I will start the story, so I will not read your answers because maja kharab ho jayega. So Chanakya Niti by Vikrant. I hope that Chanakya Niti is something which is the which is a new book, which is a modern era book. It's not an old book. Then so it's not the answer. And who has sent? Vikrant and Chirag has sent this answer, Chanakya Niti. Then Astha has sent Megasthenes book Indica. So Astha, you are right that who has written Indica? Megasthenes. But answer is not right. Megasthenes book Indica was not the place where the fight has been mentioned. Then Shruti has sent Arthasastra and one more person. This actually, there are differing colors. So one color is not visible to me. Jaisuran has sent Arthasastra. So Piyush has sent Chanakya Niti. No, I have said that Chanakya Niti is not the answer. It's a very new book in the modern era. Then, and that you read in the public administration, not at all. So some Buddhist text, वो तो मैंने अभी बोला, some Buddhist text. So मेरे, so there is a one answer, but I will not read this one. Let other answers come. So these people have sent that Indica. No, R.D. Singh has sent Indica. Not right. Then Sachidanand, don't repeat what I have said. So not right. So there is a one right answer on the board. And make sure, Danis, that you you confirm that you are not Googling it. Then, so if you're that you have sent a right answer, Danish, Muhammad Danish has sent the right answer, but I just want to know that you have not seen it from the Google. So Satyam has said Arthasastra. Now the answers are, rest of the answers are not visible to me. Let me see. Indica is not the answer, Chetna. So Indica is not the answer. Arthasastra is not the answer. So very surprising thing is that most of you go by the Arthasastra. Then and it's very kind of obvious also that most of the time we go by the Arthasastra, because Arthasastra was the book which was written by the Chanakya. Then so since Chanakya was the creator of this particular political mechanization. So he was the creator of this political mechanization against the Nanda ruler. So generally we go by the Arthasastra. In fact, it was a question in the UPSC exam itself that the political mechanization devised by Chanakya against the Nanda ruler is mentioned in which book. Then so this and one of the option was Arthasastra also. People went by the Arthasastra. 99% of the people, they marked the answer as the Arthasastra, which it was not. So somebody has said, Prachi has said Romila Thapar. How come Romila Thapar is a modern historian? So see that one somebody has sent that whose name. So Anina Matthew has sent uh, Mudra Rakshas a play. So Danish and Anina Matthew, you guys are right that it was the Mudra Rakshas written by Vishakha Dutt. Then so Preeti has sent Hathi Gumpha inscription of Kharvela. No. So answer now I am telling you that Mudra Rakshas. Then so many of you, three people, Jaideep has also sent Mudra Rakshas. So Mudra Rakshas is the answer. This is the book in which it is mentioned. And this Mudra Rakshas was a book. It was written by Vishakha Dutt. Now, this Mudra Rakshas, it was written by Vishakha Dutt, and now I will not read answer. Now I'm going to enter into the stories. Okay? So this is the book in which political mechanization is mentioned, and the source of the Mudra Rakshas, it is the Buddhist book and the Jaina books. Then so Jaina accounts and the Buddhist books are the one which are the source of the original story, but the political mechanization is very elaborately mentioned in this Vishakha Dutt's book Mudra Rakshas. So Harshit has also sent the right answer, and Harshit. So this is, so listen to the story. Now the story goes like this way, that why the Chanakya devised this political mechanization against the Nanda ruler. So listen carefully. So, and you don't need to write anything in the story. It is not at all required. It is just to connect with the topic that we are going to read. So first of all, Chanakya, he was born and brought up over there in the Takshashila. Okay? He was born and brought up over there in the Takshashila. Takshashila right now at this point of time, it is situated in the Pakistan part, that Punjab part of the Pakistan. So he was a very intellectual personality. His original name is Vishnu Gupta, or his original name was the Vishnu Gupta or Kautilya. So he was a very high intellectual personality, and he was famous all over there in the Takshashila area. Even in the far lands, people were knowing the name of the Kautilya or Chanakya because of his intellectualism. Then, so he was very famous, though people were not knowing him by face, and it is very obvious and very possible also that how come people will know about the face. But when it comes to the personality of the Chanakya or Kautilya, so he was he has a good height, and then also that well-built personality, but his face was little unattractive then, and some of the that few teeth of his, it were protruding outside then, so it was protruding outside, which seemed like that something little bit unattractive. It is not that he was ugly, but he was unattractive. On the other hand, he was married to a very beautiful lady then. So he was married to a very beautiful lady. So one fine day, the attitude of, this is how the story goes on. So you know the how that ladies behave. So one fine day that she was uh, very angry with the Vishnugupta or Kautilya. And why she was angry? So she wanted some kind of gift, and she started complaining to the Chanakya that so many years have passed to our marriage, and then since that time you haven't given any gift to me. Then so you haven't given any gift to me. All the time you are involved in the intellectual debates and these all kind of things, and you are so renowned, but even you don't have the capacity to give me a gift. Then so, when you have a very beautiful wife and then she is complaining, you can't do anything. You will have to dig the earth and then you will have to bring a gift. Then, so this was one compulsion for the Chanakya also, Kautilya also. So he was worried then that what if that she goes angry like this way for 1 year or more, and then what if she decides to go to the Maika? So obviously he was worried that actually she was saying right, that so many years have passed and he has not given any gift. So then Chanakya, that Kautilya, he decided that he said that give me some time, I will fulfill your desires. So then he started searching about that, how come I will be giving some kind of gift. And at this point of time, one news was circulating in his own area. News was that this particular ruler of the Magad, Dhananand, he was going to organize a charity event for the Brahmins. Then so charity events for the Brahmins, and only Brahmins were invited in this charity event from the entire Magad area, and he will be kind of adorning them with some kind of gift and charity. So Chanakya, that he had pride in himself, and he must be proud of himself. So he thought that since he is a very famous personality, and then every place that people more generally that people in the Magad, they know about him. So if he goes to Magad and then moreover he participates in that assembly, so he will get that gift and he will get something in the charity. So he went to participate in this charity event, and filled with the pride, he was sitting in the very front row. Then so he was sitting in the very front row, and what happened? Dhananand, when he entered into that charity event, so when he entered, the very first face he saw was the that Arthasastra writer Kautilya. So Kautilya or Chanakya or Vishnugupta, whatever name you say, and he was repulsed by the personality of the Kautilya. So he exclaimed at that point of time, Dhananand, he exclaimed that how come a Shudra is sitting in the assembly? And he started scolding his own guards and every people that throw him out of the assembly. And Chanakya at that point of time, he was trying to convince Dhananand that no, 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 I am not a Shudra, I am a Brahmin, my name is Kautilya. But when he started persuading Dhananand, everybody else who was sitting in that assembly, they started to laugh on Kautilya. And Dhananand was that he ordered finally that throw him out of the assembly. Chanakya was thrown out of the assembly, that particular charity event. And that is the moment when he decided, obviously, when you are embarrassed in a assembly like this way, so you are full of anger. Then, and it is up to you that how you are going to shape your anger. Then, how you are going to shape your anger, that in which direction you will operate according to your anger. So Chanakya at this point of decided that he will take this revenge. He will take the revenge of this one, and he was fully resolved that he will not sit back without taking the revenge. Then so while he was thrown out of the assembly, he was humiliated. So since first few days, you know that whenever you become angry, it is the first few days which shapes that how your reaction action would be there. So first few days only he stayed over there in the Magad only, that capital of the Magad, and he started to find out people from the same dynasty, from the Dhananand's dynasty only, from the Dhananand's family only, who can be used as a pawn to kill this particular person, Dhananand. And he found there was one son of the, who was neglected son of the Dhananand. His name, I will tell you that names are, this is what I was saying, that in Buddhist account and Jaina account, some different names were there. Then, so just you understand that there was one neglected son of the Dhananand, and this person, Chanakya, found him. Then he persuaded this neglected son of the Dhananand, and then he said that if at all, if you are coming with me, if you are following suggestions given by me, I will make sure that you are becoming the king of the Magad. So, king of the Magad. So then that guy readied, and then he also got to know that actually the person was Chanakya. So he said that he will be supporting Chanakya and he will act according to the suggestion of the Chanakya. Now, Chanakya also needed to go back to his own place. So while he was returning to his own place, Chanakya was returning to his own place, what happened? That he was closer to his own place in Takshasila, and since he was kind of walking from very long time, so he stayed at one such village, and while he was sitting under a tree, he found that in this village, in this particular village, some small children, they were playing the game of the king and soldiers and army and then fight. Then so there was one boy that every time, that every 15-20 minutes, the kind of that other roles were changing, but there was one guy who was always playing the role of the king, then always playing the role of the king. And whenever that one boy, that one particular boy, he was saying to these children that you lay down, everybody was laying down, you they were following all the instructions of that boy who was playing the role of the king. So though the other boys, they changed their role from soldiers to ministers to soldiers, but this boy was always the king, and then each and every boy were following his orders. So enthused by this, Chanakya, after the play was over, he started interviewing these other children, and they asked that why you don't play the role of the king, why this guy is only the king. So then all the boys, they replied in one voice that he will always be our king because he is very authoritative, and moreover he is the one who listens to us all the time, and moreover whenever there would be a demand, he is the one who will fight for us, then who lead us from the front. So Chanakya was very enthused by this, and then he found that this is what is called as the trait of a king, reality trait of a king. So then he persuaded the mother of that particular boy, and when mother got to know that the person is Chanakya and he want to teach her children, so then she was very happy to give her children to the Chanakya. Now Chanakya, in his own place, he started to raise this particular boy and started teaching him. This boy was the Chandragupta Maurya. Then this boy was the Chandragupta Maurya. And on the other hand, this Dhananand son, he is also coming to the this Chanakya's place. So Dhananand son came to Chanakya's place. Now, both were growing then, and one point of time, Chanakya was confused between these two boys, that with whom he can go with, that who he kind of that create as a contender of the ruler of the Magad. Then so he was confused between these two choices, that one was the son of the Dhananand and another was the Chandragupta Maurya. So one fine day he played a trick. Then Chanakya played a trick. You listen, this is the interesting part. So Chanakya played a trick, and going by this trick, he said to the son of the Dhananand, his name I'm forgetting at this point of time what is mentioned in the Jain account, but ऐसे ही समझ लो that name मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा है. But what happened? So he called this Dhananand son, and he said to him that Chandragupta is sleeping, and there is a one such kind of a thread necklace in his neck. Then so thread necklace is there. What you do, you go untie that necklace and bring that thread to me, and make sure that you are not going to wake up Chandragupta Maurya. Then so Chandragupta. So while this son of the Dhananand, he was doing this act while Chandragupta Maurya was sleeping, so he was not able to open the thread from his neck, and moreover in the process Chandragupta woke up. So when Chandragupta woke up, so he came back, that Dhananand son came back to Kautilya, and he said that I was not successful because in the process Chandragupta woke up. Then Kautilya said, no worries, you go and take rest. After some point of time, few days passed, the same task was given to the Chandragupta. Chandragupta was said that this particular guy, that Dhananand son, he is sleeping, and then you go and you bring that thread without waking him up. After some point of time, Chandragupta went and then he brought the thread to Kautilya. Kautilya was surprised. The very first question he asked that, how come you brought the thread? Then, how come you brought the thread? Did you make sure that you didn't wake up this particular guy? So then he said that Chandragupta said, yes, I made sure that he will never wake up. I cut his head. And then I brought this thread. So this is what happened. This is what is the story over here. That this is what is one more trait of a person who is aspiring to become king. When it comes to your self-interest, when it comes to see yourself at a position, so you need to be brutal also. You need to remove the the most important contender from your path, and that's what was done by Chandragupta. Then, so this was very much known to the Kautilya, and that's how he was going to decide that he wanted to check this aspect also. Then, so yes, his name was Pabata. Yes, very thank you. So Pabata in the Jaina account. Then, so very thank you. So his name was Pabata. So what happened? So Pabata was, thank you, Tanya. So what happened? So this guy got killed, and this is one attribute of the. So this is no. This is the name. This I very well remember in some of the other classes I have conveyed. आज की क्लास में मुझे नाम इसलिए नहीं याद आ रहा है क्योंकि मेरे दिमाग में मेरे सामने ना जो शादी में एक परसों अटेंड करके आया हूँ अपने घर की वही चल रही है. So even that today's class I'm not moving a lot. You guys know that that shadi event and then marriage events are, they are so exhausting, really. And when it is in your family, so and that altogether in the pandemic time, so there are you, even if you want to maintain social distancing, it will not happen. And that I realized in marriage, that I wanted to make social distancing, masking. You can control your behavior, you cannot control others' behavior. So let's get back to the story. So he killed Pabata, and Pabata was killed because of this particular, that the Pabata was killed by the Chandragupta Maurya, and very important attribute of the king was tested, that when it comes that anybody who is a contender of the throne, and if he comes in the way, so then he must be eliminated. So this is what was done by the Chandragupta. But that's not the story, overall story, that how he defeated Dhananand. Now after, it was very clear that who would be, that he who is going to become the next ruler of the Magad if at all Dhananand is killed. So the next episode of the killing of the Dhananand. So what happened? Chandragupta decided that he thought that if we encircle Dhananand in his capital, then, so suppose that this is the capital. So Chandragupta's Kautilya idea was that if we encircle capital, then capture capital, so then we can control entire territory. Then we can control entire territory. With this intention, he raised an army, and that army slowly sneaked into the capital of the Dhananand. And they sneaked into the capital of Dhananand. They wanted to kill Dhananand and then capture the capital. After killing the Dhananand, obviously they will become the rulers. Then, so they sneaked in, but somehow that this information got leaked to the Dhananand, and then Dhananand, our army, that people who were there in the capital, they started to target these people who have entered into the capital. Then, so they started to target these people, and as a result, Chanakya decided that now they will have to escape from the capital. So they escaped from the capital. Then, So somehow they escaped from the capital, and this strategy seemed to Kautilya that it was a foolish attempt. Then that he was not successful, and for the very first time Chanakya was feeling that what a bad kind of strategy he has created, and it doesn't fit his intellectualism. Then so again at this point of time he was in the same village, the village from where he found Chandragupta Maurya. So he was in the same village, and at this point of time he was sitting under that same tree, but he saw a different scene. What was this different scene? That there was one mother and one child. This mother was scolding her child, and why she was scolding the child? So she was scolding the child because child was eating the bread. Then, and what the child was doing, that child was eating the bread from the middle, and he was throwing the other parts. Then so what happened? So this mother was saying to the child that who the hell eats the bread from the middle? Then who the hell eats the bread from the middle? If you eat the middle first, you will never enjoy the corners. Then but when you start with the sides, then you can enjoy every part of the bread. Then so every part of the bread, that's true, that the middle part, when you see a roti, so I have seen this, and that together in the winter time, that roti, so roti is soft in the middle part, but it is hard on the sides. Then in the winters, then so hard on the sides. So when I will start eating it from the middle, so obviously this side part will be uninteresting, it will be very not tasty, and you will throw it. So that was that the child was doing. So she scolded that start eating from the sides and then last you go to the middle. This was one such insight given to the that Chanakya also. Chanakya noted that what was fault in his strategy, that he wanted to eat the middle first rather than control on the sides. Then so control on the sides. So then he realized that what was the fault in his previous strategy. From here onwards, second time when he re-strategized, so he decided that one by one he will capture the peripheries. Then so he will capture the peripheries, and then slowly after capturing the periphery, he will be encircling the capital, and then when he would be encircling the capital, so there will be no escape route for the Dhananand, and then he can be captured and killed. So it took a little bit of time, but what he did, that he was successful in this strategy, that first he won the peripheries, and then finally he encircled Dhananand. Dhananand was captured and killed. So this time he was successful. So this is what is the political mechanization mentioned by the Vishaka Dutt in his book Mudra Rakshas, and that's how Nanda dynasty came to power. So no such part you need to write from this story. You just needed to know that how it happened, and why that Maurya dynasty I have chosen to tell you this story, because this was the first not largest, but first very most important dynasty of the ancient India, and in fact that it changed so many things in the history. Then so it changed so many things in the history, and very landmark event of the propagation of the Buddhism also happened during the Maurya time. So let's begin with the Maurya. So what is the last line that you have written? So you write Maurya dynasty, and then we will write about the Dhananand in the Maurya dynasty. So you mention Maurya dynasty 321 to 185 BC. So please mention in this Dhananand was defeated and killed by Dhananand was defeated and killed by Chandragupta Maurya. Let me write his name. So was defeated and killed by Chandragupta Maurya. Chandragupta Maurya in 321 BC. Chandragupta Maurya in 321 BC. Then further you mention in 321 BC, the defeat of Nanda ruler, was possible. The defeat of Nanda ruler was possible due to the active support of, so you write all the three names of the Chanakya. So active support of Vishnu Gupta or Kautilya or Chanakya. Original name is Vishnu Gupta, and these are the titles which were given to him. Vishnu Gupta, Kautilya or Chanakya. Full stop. Then you mention the political mechanization mentioned by political mechanization devised by, not mentioned. Political mechanization devised by Kautilya against Nanda ruler is mentioned in historical work Mudra Rakshas. This is the right spelling that you will be writing. Okay? So please see on the board that what is the right spelling. Mudra Rakshas, written by Vishakha Dutt. The political mechanization devised by Kautilya against the Nanda ruler is mentioned in historical work Mudra Rakshas, written by Vishakha Dutt. Then, so you have listened to the story. Now listen after this one. So Maurya dynasty was founded, and one of the very important achievement for the Mauryas after this establishment of their rule in the Magadh, after this was defeat of that Greek governor Seleucus Nicator. Now listen, when Alexander was returning from India and this Indian subcontinent, so when he was returning from the Indian subcontinent, so he appointed one of his Greek governor over here in India to look after the Indian territory. His name was Seleucus Nicator. In 305 BC, there was this fight between Chandragupta Maurya and Seleucus Nicator. Then, so in 305 BC, in this battle also, again Chandragupta Maurya defeated Seleucus Nicator, and this time the defeat was also possible due to the active support of the Kautilya. But here the outcomes were little different than the Dhananand's time. So after the defeat, what happened? So after the defeat, a friendship treaty was signed between the Seleucus Nicator and Chandragupta Maurya, whereby Nicator gave majority of the areas in the Indian subcontinent that he was controlling. For example, the areas lying west of River Indus, the areas which were controlled by him in the Afghanistan, and then also the Sindh area. So he gave those all areas to Chandragupta Maurya, and also he married his daughter Helena to Chandragupta Maurya. So this is what happened in this particular battle. That after the battle, that in the treaty. Moreover, Seleucus Nicator, he requested Chandragupta Maurya that he will be sending a Greek ambassador in his court, and this Greek ambassador was the Megasthenes, which Chandragupta Maurya accepted. So Megasthenes came into the court of the Chandragupta Maurya, and Megasthenes was the one who wrote this very famous book, Indica. So very famous book, Indica, in which he mentions about the social political conditions in the Maurya society of that time. Then, so Indica. So this is what happened at the Chandragupta Maurya's time. Moreover, one more part of the Chandragupta Maurya you listen to. Chandragupta Maurya, that by this time 305, after the 305, he was a follower of the Jainism. Then he became a follower of the Jainism under a Jain influence of a Jain monk, Bhadra Bahu. Then so under the influence of the Jain monk Bhadra Bahu, and not only he became the follower of the Jainism, but he also started to follow all the tenets of the Jainism with pure heart. Then so at one point of time, Chandragupta Maurya decided that he will leave Magad, and then he will shift to a place called Shravan Belgola in Karnataka, today's Karnataka. So in Karnataka, and this Shravan Belgola, it is a place which is very closer to the Bangalore city, near about 130 kilometers far from the Bangalore city. So he shifted to this place called Shravan Belgola, and under the influence of the same Jain monk Bhadrabahu, he followed one of the very extreme practice of the Jainism. What is this extreme practice of Jainism? At that point of time, it was called as Sallekhana. Nowadays, we call this extreme practice as the Santhara. So Sallekhana or Santhara. So he followed this extreme Jain penance practice, that is the Sallekhana, and going by the practice of Sallekhana, he observed fast till death, and that's how he died in typical Jain fashion over there in the Karnataka. So in fact, Chandragupta Maurya is the first monarch of India that who died in typical Jain fashion. Then there is one more person which I will tell you later on, not at this point of time, whenever that topic would be there. So I will be telling you that who was the second monarch who died in typical Jain fashion. So that's how Chandragupta Maurya died. And after his death, his son Bindusar became the next ruler. So we will talk about him, but first you write this episode. So you mention, you change paragraph and then you write, in 305 BC, Chandragupta fought with Seleucus Nicator. Chandragupta fought with Seleucus Nicator, Greek governor, in brackets you can write Greek governor of Alexander. Seleucus Nicator, who was Greek governor of Alexander. Then you write, again due to active support of Kautilya, he defeated Nicator. Active support of Kautilya, he defeated Nicator. Then defeated Nicator. Then further you mention, after the battle, a friendship treaty was signed. After the battle, a friendship treaty was signed, whereby Nicator gave area lying west of river Indus, to Maurya. Area lying west of river Indus to Maurya. He also married his daughter. He also married his daughter Helena with Helena with Chandragupta Maurya. He also married his daughter Helena with Chandragupta Maurya. Maurya. Full stop. As per the treaty, one Greek ambassador, Megasthenes, one Greek ambassador, Megasthenes was appointed in the Maurya court. One Greek ambassador, Megasthenes, was appointed in Maurya's court. In Maurya's court. Full stop. Megasthenes wrote a very famous book. Indica. Very famous book, Indica, which provides details about socio-political condition during Maurya period. Socio-political condition during Maurya period. Socio-political condition during Maurya period. So many times I use the short terms while writing on the board. Let me write, but see that today's dictation is very very slow. I'll say that it's slow. It's not moderate, it's slow. And I'm doing this because I will not go fast today's class. So, but whenever the dictation is fast, so you can opt those techniques which I discussed with you, that how you can write fast. For example, that one technique that when you're writing, so main paper mein to nahi likhoge, but in your notes, for example, condition, COND, shorthand, many people are expert of the shorthand. So try to look at the others copy and look at the others copy, that what kind of shorthands they have written. So condition you can write this way, tradition you can write this way. Then there are many such other notions. Between you can write this way. Then known as. So you don't need to write these all words all the time. As soon as ASA. So this way you can increase your pace while the dictation is happening in the classes. So socio-political condition during the Mauryas. Then again you change paragraph and you start writing about the Chandragupta Maurya's last moments. So you write, under the influence of a Jain monk, Bhadrabahu, under the influence of Jain monk Bhadrabahu, Chandragupta Maurya professed Jainism. Chandragupta Maurya professed Jainism. Chandragupta Maurya professed Jainism and decided to shift to a place called Shravan Belgola, in Karnataka. decided to shift to a place called Shravanbelgola in Karnataka. Then further you mention, at this place, Chandragupta followed, at this place, Chandragupta followed extreme Jain penance, Salekhana. Extreme Jain penance, Salekhana, and died in typical Jain fashion. Extreme Jain penance, Salekhana, and died in typical Jain fashion. By 299 BC, but the dates could change. 298, 99 books have differing versions, so please don't go by the कि किसी में 98 दिया हुआ है, किसी में 99 दिया हुआ है. Approximate date is that around 299 or 98, but this much only you know. So he died. So after his death, now again story after story, Mauryas do have so many stories then. So his son Bindusar became the next ruler. Now there is this particular story related to the birth of the Bimbisar also. I will tell you a little bit about this one then. So Bindusar's story, and story भी इतनी बड़ी नहीं है. So for example, that you have this very first ruler of the Haryanka dynasty whose name was Bimbisar, and here the son of the Chandragupta Maurya was the Bindusar. Then, so what is this story? Chanakya and Kautilya, as per his view, and when you will be reading this book Arthashastra is a book of statecraft or public administration, where Chanakya has mentioned that what are the ideal traits of a king. So as per the Chanakya, it is said in this book that a ruler should be the most powerful person in the kingdom, because then he can lead by the example. So he must be most powerful person in the kingdom, and he must be perfect in all the forms of the defense art. Then so all the forms of the defense art. So going by this belief only, Kautilya deliberately he was putting poison into the food of the Chandragupta Maurya. And when you say that you will object to this one, that putting poison in somebody's food, how it will make anybody stronger? So you will have to look at the nature of the poison, which poison he is putting into his food. So this poison is basically snake's venom. Then so snake's venom. So he was deliberately putting the snake's venom into the food of the Chandragupta Maurya. Now, when it comes to that scientific things related to the snake's venom, when you will be studying biology, or basically many of you must have studied this thing, you know, snake's venom is one of the highest quality, not one of the highest quality protein that is there on the planet Earth. And so it is the highest quality of protein, and when you are taking a snake venom through your digestive tract, and if it is not coming in contact with your circulatory system, that is your blood system, so in fact it builds your body. Then so it builds your body, and this is what is the scientific fact about the snake's venom. Then but the problem with the snake's venom, when it comes into contact with your blood or circulatory system, it acts in a different way. And let me tell you some mechanism of the death with the snake's venom, that when a cobra that bites you, so obviously the venom comes into the contact with your blood. There are two ways that people die from the snake bite. One is the that blood coagulation, and another is the neurotoxin. So there are two types of the snake venom. One is the hemotoxic and another is the neurotoxic. बायोलॉजी आती है मेरे को, इसीलिए बता रहा हूँ. So neurotoxic means that your nervous system would be paralyzed, you will die. So there are some snakes whose poison is toxic to the nervous system, and another is that hemotoxic. Hemotoxic means that it is toxic to your blood system. Then so when it goes into your blood, it coagulates your blood, then coagulates your blood, and then the person will die. So there are two type of the snake venom. One is the neurotoxic, another is the hemotoxic. But none of the snake venoms are the toxic to the digestive system. Then but you will have to be very sure that in your digestive system, in your digestive tract, no blood is oozing out or some blood contact is there. If you have ensured this, so then you will never die from the that snake venom if you're taking it from the digestive tract. So that's how regularly he was putting some poison, that this poison into the food of the Chandragupta Maurya. And one fine day, what happened that Chandragupta Maurya forgot that there is a venom, and he shared the food with the pregnant wife. Then, so he shared the food with the pregnant wife, and then he realized that he has done a mistake. So after that, that wife fell ill, and she was terminally ill, and her body was becoming blue. She was about to die, and she delivered the baby. The baby color was also blue. Then baby color was also blue, and baby was also about to die. So it was a situation whereby Kautilya was he was in anxiety, and he never thought that this will happen. So he started calling all the great physicians of that area, and finally these physicians were successful in saving the child. Then not the mother, but they were successful in saving the child. What they did, that with their own kind of methods and technology, whatever that was available to them, whatever that was known to them with herb and whatever, they tried to concentrate the poison which was there in the body of the child to a place over here on the forehead. Then so poison got concentrated with whatever treatment that they gave. With that treatment, the poison got concentrated on the head, that is forehead. And because of this poison, there was a one small spot, bindu. That's what you call in Hindi. So one bindu was created on the forehead, a large bindu over here, and large spot was created, black spot. Initially it was blue, later on it became black, and the boy survived. So since the boy survived, so it was the Kautilya who named the boy Bindusar. Then the one who survived because of the Bindu. Then so that's how his name was the Bindusar. So uh, so poison got concentrated over here, not at the other parts of the body, and that's how the boy survived. So this is the story of the birth of the Bindusar and his name. So I hope you will not be confused between the Haryanka dynasty ruler Bimbisar and then Maurya ruler Bindusar. So let's come to, if at all you guys need to ask anything, you can ask. अभी तक मैंने तुम लोगों से पूछा नहीं. So you can ask, you can send your questions. So please mention after the death of Chandragupta Maurya, his son Bindusar, came to power. His son Bindusar came to power. Then now listen, his son Bindusar came to power. So when Bindusar is coming to power, so first of all, we need to know about that, what all policy were adopted by him. So Bindusar maintained very good relation with the rulers who were there in the western part of the western side of the India. So for example, that he had very good relation with the ruler of the Egypt, Philadelphus Ptolemy, and also he was having good relation with the ruler of the Syria, Antiochus. Then so Antiochus was the ruler of Syria, and the ruler of Egypt was Philadelphus Ptolemy. Now listen. So he established very good relation with the Egypt and Syria, and on his request, the Syrian ruler sent sweet wine and figs. This is, to me, it is unimportant, but once way back, somewhere down the history of the UPSC prelims examination, this question was asked. So I will not leave it, but to me, it is very unimportant question which UPSC has asked at one point of time. So on the request of the Bindusar, Antiochus of Syria, he sent sweet wine and figs, but Bindusar also requested to send a philosopher from Syria. Then, so to send a philosopher from Syria, but the Syrian ruler Antiochus, he requested that we cannot send philosopher because the rule of the Syria does not allow us to trade philosophers or send philosophers. Then, so this is what is there about the Bindusar. Then another important initiative of the Bindusar that we need to remember, that we need to study also in elaborate fashion. Not here, but in Jainism, I will be telling you in very elaborate. But first you listen that since his father accepted Jainism and he went to this place called Shravan Belgola, so in remembrance of his father, in 299 BC itself, he convened the first Jain council. Then, so he convened the first Jain council at his capital, Patliputra. And in this very first Jain council, the Jainism was divided into two branches that we'll be studying over there in the Jainism. लेकिन यहाँ पे लिख लेंगे थोड़ा सा. So first you write this part. Bindusar maintained cordial relation. Bindusar maintained cordial relation with the ruler of Egypt, Philadelphus Ptolemy. With the ruler of Egypt, Philadelphus Ptolemy, and Syrian ruler Antiochus. Syrian ruler Antiochus. Syrian ruler Antiochus. Full stop. Chalo, that Deepra has asked that why Chanakya was called Indian Machiavelli. Suppose मेरे को नहीं पता होता तो मैं क्या करता? So I know the answer, so I will tell you this answer. But generally, that it is not required that person who is there in that, who is teaching history, he will know about the Machiavelli also. And in fact, that you read about the Machiavelli in the ethics paper. Machiavelli wrote this book, The Prince. Then, and you can also say that Machiavelli can be said as the Western Chanakya. Both way. The statement will go both way. That Western Chanakya or Chanakya can be called as the Indian Machiavelli. So in fact that Chanakya's book is much more older than the Machiavelli, but there is kind of similarity between the two. So the Prince which was written by Machiavelli, and Arthashastra which was written by the Chanakya, both have the similarities and both see as ruler as a very authoritative person. What I said to you over here at this point of time, when Chanakya was of the view that the ruler, the king, must be the strongest person in the kingdom, same thing is written by the Machiavelli over there in his book, The Prince. Then when Chanakya is writing that many a times that often that rulers needs to be, when it comes to his own interest, he needs to be brutal. Then he needs to be punishing. Exactly same thing was written by the Machiavelli in The Prince, that the ruler many a times he needs to be authoritative, he needs to be brutal, he needs to be punishing. Then, and this is what Chanakya calls that Samadama Dandabhed. Then, so Samadama Dandabhed Niti which has mentioned. So in fact that there are many similarities that how they have portrayed in their books, that how a ruler can be effective. So that's why these two, that they two invariably called as the Chanakya is called as the Machiavelli of India, or Machiavelli is called as the Chanakya of the West. So that's the similarity. But it's very much possible, Deepra, that maybe the person who is reading that, who is teaching history, he may not be knowing. And it's perfectly fine that people may not know all the answers. It's perfectly fine, all of us, we all are humans, that we may not know all the answers. But luckily I knew this answer which you asked me. So now let's come to what we were writing. So you were writing Antiochus Syria. Then you write that Bindusar, Bindusar, Bindusar requested for sweet wine, fig, and philosopher. देखो ये जो क्वेश्चन है ना भाई रोनित at sir, at the time Bindusar Chanakya was alive or dead? So at the time of Bindusar, yes, he was alive. ऐसे नहीं पूछना था तुमको, ये पूछना था that by the time of this person, this particular the death of the Chandragupta Maurya, was he alive or not? So I think he was alive, and soon after the death of the Chandragupta Maurya, I think soon after, there is no such detailed account, but maybe I have read at some place that soon after 4 or 5 years only he died also. Then so he died also. So what we were writing, so Bindusar requested sweets, figs, and a philosopher from the Syrian ruler. From the Syrian ruler. From the Syrian ruler. So you write after full stop. Though Syrian ruler sent sweet wine and fig. Sweet wine and fig, but asked, not asked, but refused to send philosopher, refused to send philosopher, as the rule of Syria did not allow it. As the rule of Syria did not allow it. Then you change paragraph after this. Rule of Syria did not allow it. Then you write, in 299 BC, in 299 BC, 299 BC, Bindusar convened first Jan Council. Bindusar convened first Jan Council. Convened first Jan Council at Patliputra. First Jan Council at Patliputra. Patliputra, which is the capital of the Magad, you know it. So first Jan Council at Patliputra. One of the major development of this council, was division of Jainism. Major development of this council was division of Jainism into two branches. Division of Jainism into two branches. So I will be mentioning it in little detail over there in the Jainism. ठीक है, अभी उसको मत लिखो, but let me tell you that these two branches were Shwetambar and Digambar. Then, so we'll be mentioning it over there, not here. Then you write, after the death of Bindusar in 273 BC, after the death of Bindusar in 273 BC, a war of succession started among his sons. A war of succession started among his sons. Which continued for next 4 years. Which continued for next 4 years. Which continued for next 4 years. Then further you mention, in 269 BC, In 269 BC, one of his son Ashoka, in 269 BC, one of his son Ashoka emerged emerged successful emerged successful after killing 100 of his brothers. After killing 100 of his brothers. So after killing 100 of his brothers. So this is what is written in the many such historical books, that he killed many of his brothers, though maybe sometimes it seems like a little bit exaggerated that 100 brothers how anybody can kill, but obviously it is true that he killed many of his brothers to become the next ruler. So we will be talking about the Ashoka in detail, and then what all things happened at his time. So let's take break at this time, and then I'll continue with the Ashokas. Then so hi Riddhi, your question is not clear, really. That first part of your question is okay, but what you have written in the second part, can you tell me that what I want to answer on this end? I am not able to understand. In fact, anybody will not be able to understand what you are asking, because second part of your question is not clear. Please reframe it and then send. Then, so, and please be little bit cautious that whenever you guys are sending the questions, it should be grammatically correct and expression should be full. यहाँ पे shorthand मत use करो, ठीक है? Because expression full नहीं होगा, so I will not be able to understand that what you are trying to ask. So you can reframe question and then send. So let's begin with the next part, Ashoka. Then, so let's come to the part of the Ashoka. Ashoka. So you can write it as a heading, Ashoka, 269 BC till 232 BC. So now listen. By the time, listen. So now, this is how what interruptions does to you, that we are in the middle of the story and we are conveying something, then and all of a sudden this external disturbances happens. Then so let's come to the Ashoka's part. Ashoka came to power. Now listen. So I hope that there must not be any disturbance from this time onwards. I can only hope for this, but there is no control. So listen. Ashoka came to power in 269 BC, and when he came to power, so Ashoka is the first such Indian ruler who is considered as the first Chakravarti Samrat of India. So he is known as the first Chakravartin Samrat of India. So Chakravartin Samrat, basically, what is the meaning of this word? If the time must not have lost, so I would have given you this as a question. But chalo, thoda sa time chala gaya isme outer disturbance pe. So listen, that Chakravarti Samrat meaning that the one who ruled in all directions. Then, so one who ruled in all directions, and in fact, it was the Ashoka's time that entire Indian subcontinent was under his control. Then, starting from the north till the far end of the south, and then in the west, which included the Pakistan part also, and areas also closer to the Iran. Then in north, areas were not just confined to Jammu and Kashmir, but also the areas of Afghanistan, and also the entire Indian subcontinent, which includes the eastern part of the country also. So he was the one. After him, there is no such ruler in the Indian subcontinent who will come to power, who will be wielding such kind of power and authority till such an extent of the territory. So Ashoka was the first Chakravartin Samrat, and you can safely say that the most powerful ruler of India then in entire history. So in entire history, he was the most powerful ruler of India. So all the territories, all the Mahajanpads were part of the Ashoka's territory. Now, Ashoka had ease in annexing the other areas. He easily defeated and then he easily controlled all those other areas. But the most important challenge before Ashoka was the Kalinga. So most important challenge before the Ashoka was Kalinga, and Kalinga was not under his control. So then we need to talk about the Kalinga war. But before moving into the Kalinga war, that what happened in the Kalinga war, I need to tell you that some phases of the Ashoka's life. So when Ashoka came to power in the beginning, so the initial phase of the Ashoka's life is known as that there are three phases. So let me write Kamashoka, then Chandashoka, and then Dhammashoka. These are the three phases of the life of the Ashoka. Then, so the meaning of the Kamashoka, this is the time when he was indulged into the physical pleasure. Then indulged into the physical pleasure whereby having affair with so many ladies and then these all kind of things. Then so he was completely indulged in the affair, love, lust. Then so that is the Kamashoka phase. But Chandasoka phase, it is the aggressive phase of the Ashoka where he did military annexation using the extreme aggressive policy. And one of the example of this extreme aggressive policy was the Kalinga war. And then comes the last phase of the Ashoka's life, Dhammasoka, whereby he is not only accepting Buddhism, but he is also propagating the tenets of the Buddhism. Then, so these are the three phases of the Ashoka's life. So before writing anything, please write these three stages. So three phases of Ashoka's life, and first you write Kamasoka. First you write Kamasoka, and in this you mention he was involved with the physical pleasure. He was involved with the physical pleasure. Then second you write Chandasoka, and in this you write it was extreme and brutal phase of Ashoka's life. Extreme and brutal phase of Ashoka's life where he did military annexations, annexation with large level of massacre. Then you write Dhammasoka, and in this you write, in this phase, he accepted Buddhism and propagated Dhamma, Dhamma. I will be explaining what is Dhamma later on, today only. So, and propagated Dhamma. So these are the three phases. Now listen. So what I was telling you, that after coming to power, the biggest challenge before the Ashoka was the Kalinga. And why Kalinga was important? This is the Odisha coast, you know, that Odisha area, Utkal coast. So when you look at this Odisha part, then so this Odisha part, basically this coast, so it was important for Ashoka because it had some natural ports. So many natural ports are there. And since Maurya rulers, you have already written about the Magad rulers that they were unorthodox, they believed in the sea trade, river trade, then so these ports were important for the trade perspective. Then, and he wanted to control this Kalinga area. As such, he attacked on Kalinga. Then, so in the 9th regnal year, means that in 261 BC, he attacked on Kalinga, and this Kalinga war happened at the place called, so this Kalinga war happened at the site of Dhauli in Odisha. This war happened at the site of Dhauli in Odisha, and there is this river Daya. So on the banks of river Daya. Now listen. So in this war, as it has been written in the many history books, that more than 1 lakh soldiers were killed in this battle. And it does not mean that 1 lakh soldiers from the Kalinga side, but from both the sides, that huge killing was there. So near about 1 lakh soldiers were killed at this point of time. And when Asoka reached to the side of this Dhauli, so he was just looking at the dead bodies. Then he was looking at the dead bodies, and one by one he was passing a dead body. Then he came closer to this river, Daya. So then he came closer to this river Daya, and this Daya river was full, that it was fully red in color. Then out of surprise, he asked a question to his people that why this river has turned red. So then the people replied that, sir, this is what happens when you do this kind of massacre. That this is the blood of the people which has made this river red in color. So that was the moment when a remorse set in Asoka. He was feeling guilty. He was in anxiety, and then also he decided on at that moment only that if that is the price of winning, so I must abandon this particular military annexation. So he decided that he will abandon the policy of Bheri Gosha meaning the military annexation, and then after some point of time he decided to follow the policy of the Dhamma Gosha. Dhamma Gosha is the propagation of Buddhism or the doctrines of the Buddhism. I will tell you later little bit more, but first you write. So after coming to power, you write, after coming to power, the biggest challenge before Asoka, was Kalinga. Then you mention in his 9th regnal year, in his 9th regnal, R-E-G-N-A-L, in his 9th regnal year, that is 261 BC, he decided to attack on Kalinga. Full stop. The battle was fought at the site of Dhauli. On the banks of river Daya. River Daya, full stop. Then you mention river Daya. It is said that near about 1 lakh soldiers, died in this battle. 1 lakh soldiers died in this battle. Then after full stop you write, when Asoka saw blood red Daya river, he was filled with guilt and remorse. He was filled with guilt and remorse. Full stop. He decided to abandon the policy of Bheri Ghosh. Bheri Ghosh. And meaning of this Bheri Ghosh is the military annexation. So he decided to abandon the policy of Bheri Ghosh. Then you write, after Kalinga War, Asoka accepted Buddhism. After Kalinga War, Asoka accepted Buddhism. So you will be asking that before Buddhism, what kind of theism he was following. So he was following Ajivika. Earlier he was a Ajivika follower, but from here onwards he would be a Buddhist follower. So you mentioned that after the end of Kalinga War, he accepted Buddhism and started policy of Dhamma Ghosh. And in brackets you write socio-cultural annexation. Socio-cultural annexation. Socio-cultural annexation. Then listen that what is this? So what is the next thing that he did? So Asoka has accepted Buddhism, and then this Dhamma Ghosh policy, socio-cultural annexation, which means that was associated with the Buddhism. So it was associated with the Buddhism. Now listen, one very important event happened during the tenure of the Asoka, that in 250 BC, it was Asoka who convened the most important Buddhist council, that is the third Buddhist council. I'm saying it is the most important Buddhist council. There is a reason behind that. So parts I will discuss in the Buddhism. So you listen, that most important Buddhist council, that was the third Buddhist council, held in 250 BC at Patliputra, the capital of the Magad. So in this Buddhist council, that whatever the developments were there, that we will be mentioning in the Buddhism, but there are some parts which needs to be mentioned. So developments like writing down of the another book of the Buddhism like Abhidhamma Pitak, then there was a reform in the Buddhism itself. But one very important initiative of the Asoka is that he led by example. Then he led by example, whereby he sent his own son and daughter Mahendra and Sanghamitra to Sri Lanka for propagation of the Buddhism. And not only he sent that these people, but also many of his ministers, they went into different directions, and in these different directions they propagated Buddhism. So some went to Myanmar, some went to these East Asian countries like Myanmar, Thailand, Malaysia, these all areas. Some went to Central Asia. So this way, in different direction, he sent the Buddhist missions, and that's how Buddhism spread outside India. Now, why I'm calling it as the most important Buddhist council, there is a reason behind that. And you can say that when after that incident has happened, and then when you look back at the Asoka's time retrospectively, so then you will realize that how important this initiative of Asoka was, the propagation of the Buddhism. If Asoka would not have taken this initiative of propagation of Buddhism, maybe today Buddhism must not have been surviving. It is the effort of the Asoka because of which Buddhism is surviving. So whenever we'll be reading the Buddhism, I'll be telling you some facts that over there and some facts at the time of the Harshvardhan. So at the time of the Harshvardhan, that what happened. So let me tell you, first of all, at the time of the Harshvardhan, there was one ruler, his name was, ruler of the Bengal, his name was Shashank Goda. Shashank Goda, we'll be writing this part. Please don't write any word. We'll be writing when we'll be reading Harshvardhan, but I'm telling you a little bit early. So this Shashank Goda was the one who cut the original Bodhi tree under which Buddha got the Nirvana. So this tree did not survive, but when Asoka, who has done this, who has taken this initiative way earlier in 250 BC, so when his son Mahendra and daughter Sanghamitra, they were going to Sri Lanka. They went with one of the sapling of that tree. So one of the sapling of that tree, so the original tree survived in Sri Lanka. That's how original tree survived. Another thing, in the early medieval centuries, Buddhism completely, it was on the verge of disappearance in India, then its own place of birth. So when in the early medieval century, when Buddhism was disappearing from India, it is the Asoka's initiative that Buddhism spread to Sri Lanka, Myanmar, and then Central Asia. That's how Buddhism survived outside India when it was disappearing in India. So in this way, this was the most important assembly. Otherwise, if he would not have taken this particular initiative, so by the early medieval centuries, Buddhism must have been wiped out from the country. Like the way Ajivika, which I mentioned, Buddha Asoka was follower, there was no existence of Ajivika in the early medieval century. It did not survive. So that's why we don't have any Ajivika follower at this point of time. So Ajivika is now only a bookish material right now, that you can only read about them in the book. In real life, there is no Ajivika at this point of time. So the same thing must have happened to the Buddhism also if Asoka must not have taken this initiative. So please write few words. In 250 BC, in 250 BC, Asoka convened Third Buddhist Council. In 250 BC, Asoka convened Third Buddhist Council at Patliputra. Third Buddhist Council at Patliputra. Patliputra. It is considered to be most important Buddhist council. It is considered to be most important Buddhist council because of the developments. Because of the developments which happened in this council. Which happened in this council. For example, reform in Buddhism, for example, reform in Buddhism, composition of Abhidhamma Pitak, composition of Abhidhamma Pitak, and Buddhist missionary activity. Buddhist missionary activity. Buddhist missionary activity. Full stop. Then you write Asoka sent his son Mahendra. Asoka sent his son Mahendra and daughter Sanghamitra to Sri Lanka, daughter Sanghamitra to Sri Lanka for the propagation of Buddhism. For the propagation of Buddhism. Then further you mention for the propagation of Buddhism after full stop. He also sent various Buddhist missions. To East Asia and Central Asia. To East Asia and Central Asia. Right? So East Asia and Central Asia. So now, this is one very important thing. Then after, what happened that Asoka's reign is continuing, and Asoka died in 232 BC. There are many other things that we'll be discussing about the Mauryas, but let's just talk about the end of the Asoka, and then I'll talk about the administration and those all kind of things. Some of the initiatives of the Asoka we will see in the later half. So Asoka, after kind of establishing this big empire of the Mauryas, he died in 232 BC. And due to the Asoka's policy of the Dhammagosha, that there was no more military annexation. By the time that when Asoka was alive, so he was able to kind of control that manage things very well. He was able to maintain a very strong army. He was able to pay them. He was able to control all the territories. Everything was going fine. But after his death, what happened? That the weak successors of Asoka, they were not able to keep everything at the same place, which was that was done by the Asoka, and slowly this area started to disintegrate. Then so Mughal Empire started, oh, sorry, not Mughal, Maurya Empire started to disintegrate. This is what happens to you when you are a little bit sleepy. So so Maurya Empire started to disintegrate, and this weak ruler, slowly the Maurya Empire, which was covering all over India, it was just confined to the some parts in the northern India, north and eastern India. So slowly it started to disintegrate, and finally in 185 BC, the last ruler of the Mauryas, Brihadrath, he was killed by his own minister, Brahmin minister, Pushyamitra Sunga, and that's how the Maurya dynasty ended. So please write few words, and then we'll look into the administration of the Mauryas. Then, so please write Asoka after establishing a very large Asoka after establishing a very large Maurya empire, died in 232 BC. Died in 232 BC. After his death, Mauryan territory, after his death, Mauryan territory started to disintegrate. Mauryan territory started to disintegrate under the weak successors. Started to disintegrate under the weak successors. Under the weak successors. Then further you mention, the last Maurya ruler, Brihadrath, was assassinated by one of his minister, Pushyamitra Sunga. One of his minister, Pushyamitra Sunga, in 185 BC. In 185 BC. In 185 BC. So we will be talking about the Sunga dynasty in the post that after this completing this part, that Mauryas. So now we will enter into the other aspects of the Mauryas time, and basically the administration and some of the initiatives of the Mauryas. Then, so let's look at the administration of the Mauryas. So please write this as a heading, administration of Mauryas. Administration of Mauryas. And now listen that there were 7 organs of the Mauryan administration. There were 7 organs of the Mauryan administration, and these 7 organs or 7 branches, you can say, they were popularly known as Saptang. Then, so they were popularly known as Saptang, or 7 organs of Mauryan administration. So you write Saptang, and then I will be writing that what were these organs. Basically, this part is elaborately, it is in the syllabus of the political science. Those who are the pol science optional students, so they will be reading in their paper 2 about the Saptang. Here, we just need that what is there in this Saptang. We just need to know that what is there in this Saptang. So, what are these 7 organs of the modern administration? So, please write. The most important is the Swami. Okay? Swami, who is Swami? King. Then Swami or Rajan. Then second would be the Amatya. Amatya, and who is Amatya? Ministers. Ministers. Third is the, so third is the Kos. Kos, and Kos is treasury. Then another is the Bal. Bal is what? Army or force. Bala. Then Durga. Durga is the fort. Then Mitra. Mitra. Mitra is ally. And then Shatru. Shatru is the enemy. Now, many a places you will find that Durg is also written as the Janapad. So, when some places it is written as a Janapad, so then it just means that overall the territory. So, Janapad, that Maurya area. Maurya area. So, some places it is written as Janapad, some places Durga, so they mean same. Then, so these are the 7 organs of the modern administration. Swami, Amatya, Kos, Bal, Durga, Mitra, Satru. Then, it was a centralized administration, and obviously in centralized administration, king would be the most powerful person. Moreover, that there were so many types of the ministers. So from the prelims exam perspective, many a times, very often, UPSC asks this kind of question that they will give you some keyword and you need to identify that what is the meaning of this keyword. So many of the time, these keywords are related to the important offices, important officers, important post. So which kind of post is this? So some important officials during the Maurya period, I'm writing in the administration itself. So you can write a subheading under this, important officials. I hope you have written. Chalo, I will leave it for 1 minute so that somebody has not written, so they may be writing. So important officers, and these all words you need to memorize. So first you write Dhamma Mahamatras. Dhamma Mahamatyas. Then, so Dhamma Mahamatyas, that they are one of the very important ministers who are associated with the propagation of Dhamma. Then, so minister associated with propagation of Dhamma. And what is Dhamma? Doctrine of Buddhism. Dhamma is the doctrine of Buddhism. It is also at the same place you can write that not only it is the doctrine of Buddhism, but it also moral ethical code of conduct. It is also moral ethical code of conduct. Moral ethical code of conduct. So one minister is the Dhamma Mahamatyas. Some places Mahamatras are also written. That's perfectly fine. Mahamatyas or Mahamatras. Then next you write Sulkadhyaksh. Sulkadhyaksh. Then Sulkadhyaksh. And Sulkadhyaksh is the taxman. Okay? So tax collector, or you can write tax collector. Then you write after this Sitadhyaksh. Sitadhyaksh. Then so Sita, the word Sita which stands here, it is referring to the land. The meaning of the word Sita is the land. Then so he was the minister that who is looking after, minister responsible to look after royal land. To look after royal land. To look after royal land. Sulkadhyaksh. Then further you write Nagarika. Nagarika. Nagarika was the superintendent of city administration. Superintendent of city administration. Then superintendent of city administration. Then you write Bhesaj. Bhesaj, where physicians, or nowadays what we call them, doctors, physicians. Bhesaj, were the doctors. Then further you mention Mauryas also established a very good network of espionage. Espionage. Very good network of espionage known as Guptachar Vibhag. Known as Guptachar Vibhag. In fact, it was the idea of the Kautilya only that this spy, basically the Guptachar spy. So it was the idea of the Kautilya only, and Kautilya, you know, that he used all sort of people for spying activity. For example, that he not only used the soldiers, common men, then women, prostitutes, but even the small children were the spies of the Kautilya. So even the small children, which you may not believe that they are spy, they are just playing, you feel like they are kids then, but they are the spies of the Kautilya. So this is why that his control on the administration, Maurya's king control on administration was very firm, and till the time of the Asoka, it continued like that way. But after the death of the Asoka, this system of the Guptachar Vibhag started to weaken. Then, so very good system of the espionage, that is the Guptachar Vibhag was there. Now, another thing related to the Maurya administration, that they were not very rigid about that giving the post to some high class families or high class people, that there was mobility in the society as far as the important positions are concerned, and basically people with the capability, they were given the important positions. Then, and there are instances also that where women were also appointed at some post. Then, so women were also appointed at some post. Now, another thing related to the Mauryas as far as their rule is concerned, so Mauryas were very much aware about that welfare of the people. They knew that it's the welfare of the people which makes the common public believe in the or have trust in the king. So they also created the public hospitals. Then they also created many irrigation facilities. They digged canals and wells. They digged wells and created canals for the irrigation. Then so these all kind of things they were doing. Moreover, one very unique thing associated with the Asoka was that in fact, or perhaps Asoka was the first ruler in India who is known for creating a wildlife sanctuary. See that Asoka, it is said about the Asoka that before he was not a Buddhist, so he was very brutal. He was killing that regularly in his kitchen. One such peacock was culled in his kitchen, and then they were there was not a single day that they were not having the non-veg food. But from here onwards, he uh, kind of after following the Buddhism, so he believed that so much of killing of animal, it is very brutal and against the law of the Buddhism. So he followed this non-violent policy towards the animals also then, and as such for the protection of the animals he created wildlife sanctuary then. So was the, you can say he was the father of the wildlife sanctuary in India. So you write, please write that Mauryan rulers, Mauryan rulers, Mauryan rulers were also aware about importance of were also aware about importance of public welfare, importance of public welfare, whereby they created public hospitals, whereby they created public hospitals and also improved irrigation facilities, also improved irrigation facilities by creating canals and digging wells, creating canals and digging wells. Full stop. Then you mention digging wells. Perhaps Asoka was the first ruler. Perhaps Asoka was the first ruler who created a wildlife sanctuary, for the protection of animals, for the protection of animals. Created a wildlife sanctuary for the protection of animals. Then, so this is about the administration. There are one more aspect that I need to discuss. Give me a minute then. So just 1 minute and then I will. So next you mention society during Maurya period. Society during Maurya period. Here I need to mention something which was mentioned by the Megasthenes. Then, so listen first that when we talk about the society during, so who were the Samharta? Okay, chalo. So there are so many names. I will say one thing to you. See that it is not possible that I'll be telling you all these officers of any kingdom, but this is something that you will be doing while you are doing the value addition. So let me, since your question Anina and Suhail has asked, I will tell you that who is Samharta and Sannidhatas. So listen, what you do, this NCRT which I have told you, R.A. Sharma, उसमें एक काम करना, that in this NCRT, what is there? That suppose that one chapter of the Maurya is there. So at the end of the chapter, what they have done, that they have mentioned these keywords. Then some of these keywords, that Samharta, Sannidhata, these all are there. So in these keywords, they have explained that what is the meaning of these keywords. In each and every chapter, 4-5 are there. So that you jot down or write it in your notes. You will be complete with all the officers who were there in all the other kingdoms also. So that way you can include this part or you can do the value addition in your notes. So let me tell that what is Samharta and Sannidhata. So Samharta and Sannidhata. what they have asked. So Samharta, he is actually Sulkadhyaksh also. Then the difference between the Samharta and Sulkadhyaksh was the chief tax collector and Samharta are the lower level officer, tax collection officers. Then so when you wrote Sulkadhyaksh, so he was chief tax, or you can write that, you can write chief tax collector, and these are the tax collection officers at lower level. Then okay, so the rank of the Sulkadhyaksh is the highest and they are the other officers. Sannidhata is the chief treasurer. Chief treasurer. Okay, so he is chief treasurer and Samharta is the tax collection officers. But you know that how we can maintain difference between the Sulkadhyaksh and then also this Samharta. See that we have tax collection authority through the UPSC civil services examination also, and through that CGL, SSC CGL level also. So the one who are getting selected from the CGL, they are grade B officers and grade A officers like IRS and IRS only. So IRS, so Indian Revenue Services officers, they are the grade A officers. So Sulkadhyaksh would be the grade A and these would be the grade B. So what I was saying, society. So now society, when we talk about the society during the Maurya period, so first of all, there is a one insight which has been provided by the Megasthenes itself. Megasthenes in his book Indica, he wrote that there were seven castes were existing at the time of the Mauryas. But when you look at the caste that Megasthenes has mentioned, it seems that he was confused between the profession and caste, and what he did that in his confusion that he mentioned the profession as the caste. He was not right, but he was confused. Then so he mentioned this. So he was confused between the profession and caste, but on the other hand, that caste system was very much there, and but caste rigidities were not there. Then so caste rigidities were not as such. Then so caste rigidities were not as such, and as I said to you that mobility was there in the society. If you have capacity and capability, you can rise to an important position. Moreover, when it comes to the respect granted, who all in the society were granted respect or given respect, so the old people, elder people, it is said by that as per the rules of Dhamma itself, then that elder people and then the monks and then the Brahmins, they all were respected. So older people, monks and Brahmins, and many a times that this class of the monks we call as Shramana. So Shramanas, Brahmins. So monks will come under the category of the Shamanas. Then, so Shamanas and Brahmins were accorded respect in the society, and also the elder people. Women were also respected. Then, so it was as per the Dhamma that it was said that these all kind of people, that women, Shamanas, Brahmins, they must be respected. So please write that as per Megasthenes, there were seven castes in the Maurya's time. Then in Maurya's time, which are, so you write one by one, which are, so though you don't need to remember this list, but since my job is that completing this part, so I'm writing this one, but if you don't remember, it has never been asked in UPSC that what all things they have mentioned. He has mentioned what all professions or caste he has mentioned. You only remember that he mentioned seven castes. Then, so you write that seven castes were counselors, priest, Shramana, herdsman, peasant, philosophers, how many we have written? So herdsmen and artisans. So can you see that what is this? This is particularly a profession. It is not a caste. What is the caste of a peasant? Then it's a peasant. What is the caste of an artisan? In artisan, you can say that these are the that caste. Then philosophers. Then these are the that people. So herdsman. Can you say that this is a caste or profession? So he was confused between that he considered profession as the caste. So please write that it seems that Megasthenes confused profession with the caste. Megasthenes confused profession with the caste. Then further you mention Megasthenes confused profession with the caste. Then change paragraph and then you mention there was mobility in the society. There was mobility in the society. And people can rose to important positions. With their capacity and capability. Then further you mention religious toleration and accommodation was also very well there in Maurya time. Now let me tell you this example, that let me elaborate this thing. You see, at the same point of time, Sramanas are associated, that Sramanas are the monks of the Ajivika, Jainism and Buddhism. Then, so on one hand Sramanas are there, on one hand Hindu priest is there. All of them are accorded respect. So it means that there was a religious toleration, and then also the coexistence concept is very much there. So religious tolerance was there. Then you write that generally Shramana and Brahmins were accorded high respect. And many a times they were exempted. From paying some taxes. Then you write, women and elders were also respected in the society. And there were instances of women being appointed. To some official positions. So this is all about the society during the Maurya period, and there are some more aspects of the Maurya. Listen to me, that there are architectural aspect associated with the Mauryas, where I will be talking about that some more initiatives of the Asoka. Then so some more architectural initiatives at the time of the Asoka, and also all the other Mauryas. So that part we will be covering in the very first class of the architecture and sculpture in art and culture. Then, so there I will cover that part, and moreover, the Shramana which I have mentioned, I will further elaborate this Shramana in the art and culture. Then, so and many times UPSC have asked, for example, this year only, that again the Shramana was asked in the prelims paper. Then, and then last time it was in 2016. So 2016, then in 2020 they have asked. So it's a very important word. So I will be further talking about the Shramanas over there in that chapter. Then, so now we are done with the some major parts of the Mauryas. Some part which is remaining, it will be in art and culture. So next topic which I'm going to take, and I don't think that, no, in this week, so tomorrow I don't have class in your batch. So next week I'll be starting with the post-Maurya period. And then also after completing the post-Maurya, we'll start with the Gupta. So post-Maurya and Gupta would be the topic for the next class. And I'm winding up the class here today. So thank you for today. Meet you next week.